Anthony from the Daily DM returns for his third appearance on Claim to Game.
Number 3.
We'll start with Call of Cthulhu, one of the most popular tabletop RPGs in the world, breaking down why it works so well for horror, suspense, and cosmic dread. Anthony also shares his advice for running unforgettable one-shots, from Halloween showstoppers to eerie editions for long-running campaigns. We'll even move beyond Halloween. That way you can pull out an adventure no matter the holiday.
Groundhog's Day?
Let's go make that claim to game. You know, before we get into being spooky, there are 3 big tabletop RPGs, like the big 3 that if you go on Google or you go on any sort of search engine and you type in what are the most popular RPGs in the world, depending on whether you're in the United States or if you're somewhere else in the world, really there's 3. There's 3 main ones. There's Dungeons and Dragons, right? You called it the infamous ampersand. Yeah, the ampersand. There is Pathfinder, right? The cousin and branch off of Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, and now it's on its second edition. And then there is Call of Cthulhu. And I want you to tell me what you think, because you have more experience doing Call of Cthulhu than I do, playing it, running it. Why do you think that that is a top tier RPG?
For a couple of reasons. Number one is the BRP, the basic role-playing system. It's percentile based, and it tends to be a little bit crunchier than, say, D&D or Pathfinder, but it's much more thorough in how it deals with things, in my opinion. And the BRP is that defining factor. In fact, it's also the basis for 2 other games, or several other games that Chaosium makes, the people who make Call of Cthulhu. And that's RuneQuest, which is how I got introduced to the BRP. And then there is Seven Seas, and then Pendragon. All very good games. But the BRP is that differentiator that really makes Call of Cthulhu work.
All right. So a couple things you just mentioned. You mentioned crunchier and handles things more thoroughly. So in our listener knows that in our terms for crunchy, it means that it is a more simulationist game, meaning it tries to take things in the world and create rules and ways that those situations are determined and the results and outcomes are crystal clear. Yeah. So one of those things, and I'm going to bounce back and forth, there's a percentile die. And anytime you get more numbers and maybe more modifiers or lack thereof modifiers, some folks will get that feeling in their stomach like, oh, what did I get myself into? Why am I playing this game? And others are like, bring it on.
Bring it on.
And I want the complexity. So can you talk a little bit about what makes this game unique with the basic role-playing system? The D100 skill checks, sanity points. How do those rules affect gameplay? Why is it so cool?
It's cool because unlike other games where you want to roll high, you want that natural 20 in D&D, you want, you want those high rolls. In the BRP, you don't want anything that high. You want to pull out that set of percentile dice that never rolls well, and you want to use those because the idea is that your skills, whatever number they are, they're usually in the like 60s to 50s to 80s, generally speaking, and you want to roll that number or less. Now, the cool thing about the BRP and most BRP games is the fact that they have this thing called degrees of success, which things like D&D don't have. And what I like about the degrees of success is I didn't just succeed. Maybe with RuneQuest at least and Call of Cthulhu for sure, you have a half value and a fifth value. So say my value, my score is an 80. I've got an 80 in strength. Okay. If
That's
I
one of
get a
your
40
skills. Strength
that's
is
one of your
skills.
abilities. Yeah, one of your abilities.
Okay.
Yeah. And you roll a 40 or better, that is a better success than just getting under 80. Then if you get under 20, you get an even better success and better things happen. That is one of the things I really like about the BRP is you're not just looking at pass or fail. It's did you pass? How well did you pass? Because there are some instances in Call of Cthulhu, especially where you don't need just a success. You have to have a half score success, which they called a hard success. You have to have a hard success to actually get the bit or do the thing.
What it reminds me of is and this is not a crunchy system, but powered by the apocalypse, right? When you're rolling your D20 or sorry, your D6, you are either completely failing with an obstacle, you are succeeding, just flat out succeeding, or you are going to succeed with a success. And I think there's something in between. I probably missed a couple of steps there. But this makes it more mathematical. Like this is stretching it out between 1 and 100 in terms of percentile, as opposed to 1 through 12, or if you have bonuses, sometimes in, Powered by the Apocalypse, you can get higher than the basic 12. So I think my question here, I do have a question, I promise.
I pinky promise.
How do these rules and the different degrees of success and characters that can be fallible, right? This isn't your superhero, super duper, Superman people. They're very real people, very real characters. How does that contribute to what we're going to be talking about today, which is horror and suspense and cosmic dread and tension, not just in Call of Cthulhu, but also in other RPGs? Like, how does this range contribute to that?
That's a great question because, short story, a long time ago, about 6 or 7 years ago, a friend of mine, no, it was longer than that. Anyways, a friend of mine by the name of Greg Alberl, he was trying to get me into RuneQuest, Chaosium's other big campaign setting. And he's like, dude, this is really cool. You got to check it out. And I kind of like, I'm a D&D fan, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of looked over it a little bit and went, okay. But I didn't really get into it. And I regret that so much. Because later on, when my normal group wasn't meeting that week, and I said, hey man, you got a game going on? He goes, yeah, we're playing Call of Cthulhu. I said, that's great. Can I join? He goes, yeah. And I start making my character and I'm realizing how fragile this character is. Like, and I'm looking at things and I'm like, wow, there's not I'm not going to take a lot of damage before I just keel over. He goes, that's the point. In RuneQuest specifically, his joke is you can always take an arrow to the eye slit, and a wrong step, and suddenly you're getting pushed out of a second story window, and taking a considerable amount of damage, that is something that is very unique to most systems that run the BRP. Your character is not an unstoppable juggernaut like in D&D.
The juggernaut!
Yeah.
It doesn't have that advancement type where you are just becoming beefier and beefier in one way or another and you can do all these things. There is an advancement mechanic for Call of Cthulhu and those similar systems, but it's much different and it's much more gradual than something like D&D where you get these big jumps every time you level up.
It makes me think of Dungeon Crawl Classic. Have you ever played Dungeon Crawl Classic? So like the characters are squishy there because they have such low HP and very, very little skill. Like you're just talking like if you plucked a farmer out of medieval Europe and stuck him in a dungeon, like that's kind of the character that you run in the DCC. So with that weakness, the ability to die, like that's something very real. Like we experience that when we drive in our vehicle going down the road, but now we're simulating it in a game. Like, what do you think about that?
That is fascinating to me. And it's the reason why I fall in love with the BRP. Don't get me wrong. I still play D&D. It's a big part of the games I like to run, but I have the the rabbit hole I've been down lately is I've been running a lot more Call of Cthulhu. And the thing I like about it is that now take the real world fragility of humans. Now put them against these cosmic horrors, these things that are incomprehensible, these things that could squash you, with a flick of a finger, basically, and it becomes much more intense. That idea of cosmic horror and dread, and you're going around this building and there may be cultists there, or there may be a monster of some kind, some horror in there. And you're going in there going, we've done a lot of investigating. We've done a lot of research on what is probably in here. My little Colt 45 may not be good enough for what I'm dealing with. It may be enough to slow it down, but not stop it, and everybody be prepared to run. A friend of mine always joked that your best case scenario for Call of Cthulhu is for your character to go insane or die. Because, your characters are that fragile. In fact, there's mechanics that if you take so much damage in a single go, you're taking what they call a serious wound, and you have to see a doctor. You have to go to a hospital and see a doctor to regain any hit points. So that kind of fragility lends itself to these games where you can explore tension and suspense and horror, because you never know when that next step might be your last.
So I have a friend, her name is Caitlin, and she does not like playing tabletop RPGs. And here's why. She likes to win. She likes to win a game and know that she won. And I would argue there are times where you and your party do win in Dungeons and Dragons, right? There's a quest that you take, and collaboratively you overcome the obstacles. You take down the big bad evil guy. You get the treasure, the magical object. You save the town. Whatever it is. For Call of Cthulhu, would my friend Caitlin really not like it? Like, are you really not going to ever win in Call of Cthulhu? Or is there that same ability to, as a team, get out of the cosmic horror, survive? Can you survive a game of Call of Cthulhu?
Absolutely. But to answer your question about your friend, she probably would not be a huge fan, because the idea of Call of Cthulhu, and something unique with other horror games to Call of Cthulhu compared to other horror games, is the fact that you never win. You're only holding back the darkness for another day. You're only stopping it this time. And there's always going to be something else rearing its head, and something else that you're going to have to go to stop.
That then makes me shift when somebody says, well, I want to win. Winning is telling a really good story.
Yes.
Like, it's the storytelling. Back in episode, I believe it was 18, I've mentioned this episode all the time because it was something that really changed the way I think about horror. Ken Hite, Trail of Cthulhu 2nd edition, is on the Ken and Robin podcast. They talk about stuff, I think is the name of their podcast. That he was saying, a lot of times it's the experience of having these emotions that are very visceral, very real. And fear is one of those basic human emotions that you can feel in a tabletop RPG. And so what I'm hearing you say is that Call of Cthulhu does that really well because of the fallibility of the characters. It does it really well because the obstacle that you're coming up against can't truly be beaten. It can only be held off. So that tension never really goes away. Even if you get through the adventure, you're still stuck with, like, that big bad evil guy is still out there and he's way more powerful than you. So here's my question. For any game master listening, how can they hop in to run a game like Call of Cthulhu that is a little different than Dungeons and Dragons? It's not completely different. They're still tabletop RPGs. You're still pretending to be pretending to be people in a made up world where something is going on. But what does a GM, a game master, need to have in their mind when they're going to run a game of Call of Cthulhu without feeling overwhelmed or without, overwhelming their players? Yeah.
First off, I would actually recommend starting with chaosium.com, their website. If you go to the bottom left corner, I think it is, they have a link labeled resources. And one of the links is there is a really good starter adventure. It's an intro to Call of Cthulhu. And they've got a big section for the keeper, a big section for the players. They've got pre-generated characters for the what they call them scenarios. They don't call them adventures, they call them scenarios. But we all know it means the same thing. And it is a really good intro to what Call of Cthulhu is all about. You have a very interesting bad guy. And the whole idea behind it is you are hired, you are investigators hired to figure out what is going on with a house that may or may not be haunted. So it gives you the idea of, this is what an investigator is. This is what they do. They dig up research in all the different ways and on all the different aspects of this. Then they go in doing the practical stuff where they go in and they're looking around and they're trying to find more clues as to what's going on. And I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't, but it's called The Haunt. And it's a really good starter adventure.
Yeah. So The Haunt, you mentioned that to me before when we were going back and forth about what we wanted to talk about today. And, is there one that goes over with 5th edition, like with D&D, or is it just with Chaosium? Are those two different things?
Two different adventures.
Okay.
The Haunt, I think I may have gotten it wrong. It may be The Haunting, but they're very similar titled. But yeah, the D&D version is much more different.
Okay.
That one is much different in that the premise is that you are caught outside in a horrible storm. It's, starting to be pebble size, then marble size, then golf ball, and bigger hail is coming down, and there's no shelter in sight, except you see this old house up on a hill, this massive manor house up on a hill. And of course, as players, we all go, that's not good.
That can't be good.
But as characters, you're like, that's the only place we have. And you go through this house and trying to figure out the history of the house and what's going on. And there's two very unique villains in that adventure. And that one, because of one of the villains specifically, lends itself to a lot of the terror and horror, even in D&D. Even in it, as far as a D&D adventure, it's generally run at lower level. This one runs around, I think, 3rd level or so.
Okay.
But one of the aspects of it is the fact that, and again, I don't want to spoil it, but one of the main recurring bad guys that keeps coming and going has the ability to shadow bend, meaning as they come out and attack, they can meld in, they literally fall back into a shadow and disappear.
Okay.
And the fact that they can come and go as they please, and constantly torment the characters. In fact, I have sound effects for this particular character. Sounds like steps running down a hall, and some other sound effects that go along with it. If you ever look at it and play it, you'll get the idea. But I can play that sound of running up and down the hall, and I have players who are literally like, no, we are not going through that again. We're not doing that again. No. That visceral reaction to that caused fear in a player for their character. Like you were saying, it's something that's very real, that when you can get a player to feel what their character is feeling, the horror and terror that their character is feeling, oh man, that's when you've done your job as a DM or a keeper.
Yeah. So, yep. And keeper is what Call of Cthulhu calls the game master. For anybody who's like, oh, what's that? So one of the things we said was players and GMs who are new to Call of Cthulhu start with the starter edition, the starter set, the starter scenario. For those who are like, I still want to play D&D, there are horror themed D&D scenarios and adventures and one shots. So that's sort of where I wanted to begin thinking about the one shot and the holiday. Right? Like not the Holiday, the movie with Jack Black and I think Cameron Diaz and all those other people that are whoever was in Titanic. Oh shoot, I can't remember her. Kate Winslet. Yeah. Somebody else too. Jude Law. There we go. I got all the 4 main actors. That's what everybody wanted. They wanted me to be able to name that. I have only watched it once, I promise. But for players and GMs, start with that. Start with other things. But one shots, I love doing one shots for anything that is a holiday. So whether it is Halloween, which is coming up here around the time of this release, whether it is Christmas, whether it's any other holiday of the year, doing a one shot is awesome. And specifically for Halloween and coming up with a horror themed RPG, there are elements of Halloween and the suspense and the thriller that's built into Call of Cthulhu. But my question is, do you know of any other RPGs that you love or that you've heard of that you feel do that really well, that have that element of psychological thriller, cinematic horror, characters that are fallible? You mentioned, I'm going to go off on a tangent here, that D&D adventure was only level 3, which to me makes sense for a horror game, because if you put them at level 5, that's when they power up and start having second attacks and fireball and all this other stuff. But when they're not quite there yet, then there's an element of like, oh crap, I could die. This could be really bad. So back to the question, what are some other RPGs that work really well to create horror?
My favorite, Dread. And it says it's everything is in the name. It's Dread. And it has such a unique, awesome mechanic to it. It doesn't use dice.
Yeah, go through it. We've talked about that here on this channel before, but I would love your take on it. What is Dread for the person who this is their very first episode? Dread
is probably the most interesting and fun horror RPG I have ever gotten to play. Serious RPG. There's some others that are a little tongue-in-cheek, but Dread is the best, in my opinion, because the mechanic is a Jenga tower. You start with whoever's telling the story, whoever's the narrator is what they call the GM, DM, whatever you want to have it. They start by taking a full-size Jenga tower and they pull 3 pieces and put them on top. In this RPG, Jenga rules do apply. You touch it, that's the piece you have to pull. So as you go through, the narrator, as you want to do things, sometimes it'll be something innocuous. Sometimes it might be something stressful. But at any time, the narrator can say, give me a pull, or give me 2 pulls, or everybody has to give me a pull. And this Jenga tower is slowly building on itself and getting more rickety and taller and more rickety and taller. And it's building that idea of dread, that tension that this tower is going to fall at any time. And the cool part is if that tower ever falls, either that character is doomed or their character dies. Some horrific death. One of my absolute favorites, dread scenarios to run, is one that I found on a message board ages and ages ago. And I'm so glad I did what I did with it, but it's called Hope's End. Hope's End. And I found it. I could not tell you who wrote it, but I found it. I copy pasted it into a Word document, and I have a copy of that Word document. I will never let it go. I have it in hard copy, 3 different places, so I never lose this thing, because what it is, the scenario, is funny. It's interesting and horrifying and funny all at the same time, because you are playing the part of Scooby and the gang. Right. Put in a actual Call of Cthulhu type scenario.
Like so
if you took an actual Call of Cthulhu, like you're running straight up real Call of Cthulhu, but the characters you're running are Scooby and the gang, that is a recipe for fun. In fact, I ran it recently for a friend of mine, his birthday. He wanted to run something new, and I was like, let's play Dread. And they were having a blast getting to play the different characters, getting into their characters and reacting to all the funny things. And, seeing who survives and who doesn't, at the end kind of thing. Yeah. Dread is amazing. And it even comes like the rule book even comes with 3 scenarios that are all great, like absolutely great.
I think I chose Beneath the Metal Sky when I ran it, which I think is in the back of the rule book. So
correct.
Wonderful. So for those of you guys that want that scenario, if you're not into Scooby and the gang, what I would say is Beneath the Metal Sky is very Alien-esque. Like if you've ever seen those movies with Sigourney Weaver, it is like an alien themed version of Dread, and everybody gets on this derelict ship, and that's all I'm going to say. So it's a different feeling, but still that sense of like, if this falls over, I'm done for. The game's done, and nobody wants that to happen.
Yeah. I would argue my favorite only because of the three, because I've seen it play out so fascinatingly, we'll say, is the second one. I can't remember, but it takes place at a like a lakeshore lake house. You know what I'm talking about? It takes lake house.
I can't remember the name, but it's very Halloween and Shredder, terror kind of horror flick.
Exactly. And it's, for that is one of my favorites. Some of my favorite memories with Dread come from that particular scenario.
And it has a cult following. Like you were talking about a blog, and like you can go online and there's so many people that wrote their own very fantastic scenarios.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There was a gentleman, and I'm blanking on his name, but he had a website, was nothing but new Dread scenarios that he wrote. He was Australian, and one he had was written around those birds that come and attack everybody every year. So it was like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, but with this one specific type of bird that Australia is known for. And that was fun to run too. Yeah, I've run a lot of Dread.
There's another game that I have to mention because I actually have the copy right here. It's called 10 Candles by Stephen Dewey. Have you ever played it, Anthony?
I've heard of it, but I've never played it. It's on my wish list.
It's amazing. And here's where the Dread starts. You begin letting your players know they will not survive. Every single person in this game will die, but you're trying to die in the best possible way. So the candles are actually the mechanic that allows the time to pass as you go through the game. And as you move on from scene to scene, you extinguish a candle. In the very end, you are in pitch blackness. And it is so awesome. It's one of the best games. Pretty sure George W. Bush showed up 3 different times with some of my goofy players and happened to be a big bad evil guy. But all joking aside, it can be as funny, it can be as serious, but ultimately everybody dies. And to me, that's horror. Like there is no way out. The drums are beating in the deep. It's like Casa Doom. There is no way out.
They are coming.
So very cool game. Why are one-shots so good for holidays?
Oh man, great question. Because they give a break from every day. Like you have your regular game, you know what to expect. There's a story going on that you guys as a whole are telling. But it breaks up the routine of what to expect in the game. For example, one of my favorite Christmas ones to run. I'm not going to mention my absolute favorite, but one of my favorites is one about Krampus, where the party wakes up in this frozen ice cavern, beaten. They're like only in their regular clothes. They have no weapons, and they feel like their backsides have been beaten with rods, with beaten like with a switch, and they're waking up going, "What happened?" And they keep hearing cloven hooves walking throughout these hallways. And it's a horror Christmas themed one, right? But it's the idea that Krampus is coming to get you and they have to find a way to defeat Krampus and all these things. And that one is, it breaks up the campaign into something new, something novel, something different. And that's why I think they work so absolutely well. Whether you're running, like you said, a Halloween one, my absolute favorite, The Haunt, is actually, we talked about that one runs at level 3. There's actually 3 parts to it. There's a part 1, 2, and 3, and the third one actually ties all of the storyline from the first one and the second one all together and brings hopefully a successful conclusion. I don't just run a one shot. I run them in a way that is probably different than most people run one shots, because I run the one shots with whatever characters they're currently playing.
You build it into the campaign as a disruptor in the normal pattern.
Correct. Correct. But I have a very unique thing I do with it that I'm not sure many DMs do. I have what I call my canon, not canon.
Okay. Yes.
All good things that happen are canon. All bad things that happen are not canon. So if somebody dies, something happens like that, they lose magic items or whatever, that's not canon. But anything that they gain or anything that they do, that's considered canon. And so I do that as a way to make it more fun and make them get their buy-in more to the adventure, and makes it so that they are more willing to play the game, if that makes sense.
It doesn't make them fearful
game,
that playing the side quest is going to ruin their actual campaign goal.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that is one of the differences I do with specifically with my Dungeons and Dragons one shots.
This is something TV series have done very well for years, right? There's always the Friends Thanksgiving episode or the Office Christmas episode.
Yes.
It breaks up the general storyline.
Yes.
There's so many different holiday themed TV series. Even my kids, like they'll be watching something on PBS and it's like the Nature Cat Christmas episode or Winter Festival or whatever they want to call it.
Right.
There's so many different ways to break it up using what people are experiencing in their real lives, which is whatever holiday's going through, even if it's not even if it's not a religious holiday. There are some non-religious holidays here in the U.S. that we all celebrate. I'm thinking 4th of July. There are some 4th of July themed video games. I think Broforce is one of the ones I think of. If anybody's ever played on Steam, it's like the cheapest game where you can pretend to be Arnold Schwarzenegger in every action movie character ever.
Right. Yeah.
Very Metal Slug-esque, but it breaks up the pattern is really what we're getting at here.
Yeah. Yeah. And they can be as serious or as tongue-in-cheek jovial as you want. Especially with Christmas, there are some really good ones out there. Of course, How the Lich Stole Christmas, my absolute favorite to run for low-level parties. If you're going to run it as a one-shot, one-off, new characters kind of thing, not in your campaign, run it for tier 1. Trust me, DMs, trust me. The players will thank you for it later. And there's another one that's really good that is called Last Christmas by, let's see, I wrote this down. Janek Selecki, I think is the name. It's on the Drive-Thru RPG, but it's unique because you are playing Christmas holiday villains. And although they're not named, you know who they are. There is the Grinch, there is Scrooge, there is Marv and Harry from Home Alone. There is
the Wet Bandits.
All these Christmas.
We're the Wet Bandits.
Yeah, there's all these Christmas villains that apparently the Grinch took it too far this year, and Santa went a little crazy and went evil, and decided nobody is good enough, and locked himself up in his workshop. And so it's up to all the villains to save the day, because no hero is going to have the ability to attack Santa, regardless of what's going on. But the fun thing about it is you're not just playing your villain trying to save the day. You have a secret agenda. So like for Harry and Marv, you want to find Kevin's letter and destroy it.
Yeah.
That's one of the, that's their secret agenda, and it's fun to be able to play those things that may or may not hinder or help the adventure. But that's one of those fun ones that's like tongue in cheek kind of thing that, again, a good break from the normal routine.
That idea of the hidden agenda, that makes me think of Fiasco with Jason Morningstar, because they always have that, like, you're connected to this person, but you're trying to do this, and you're not really together, but there is kind of a synergy of what you're trying to get done and accomplished. I love that. Flipping the bad guys on their head. So what advice do you have for people who are trying to pace any atmosphere, whether it's a one shot or you're trying to integrate it into the campaign, kind of like what you're talking about, where you break up the normal campaign with your players by doing a holiday themed adventure? And if it is horror, if it is Halloween, how do you balance tense versus fun? from start to finish? You know, you mentioned taking the this is going to screw up your campaign out of it by having canon and not canon. What are some other ways that you can keep it from being pushed over the edge?
Number one, make sure that you have the players buy in. Say, hey, I want to run a horror game for Halloween or for whatever. I want to run this horror game. It's going to have these elements. Have that conversation first. Okay. That makes sure that when you do, when you run it and you make those really tense moments and those really scary moments, that you can do it with the understanding that the player is like, okay, I know what I'm getting myself into. Right. Practically speaking, from a DM, GM keeper, is you want to do this. When you're giving a room description, you want to talk in a slightly lower tone. You want to give the room description much more slowly, and you want to do it much more quietly. That, from a psychological standpoint, draws the players in. Especially when something happens, like a bang, and you slam your hand on the table for a bang and watch everybody jump, you know, the jump scare, right? Like I said, the sound effects I use for the haunt, for one of the villains in the haunt, things like that. All those kind of things are things to build that atmosphere to run a successful horror game. Also, and it doesn't hurt, Toccata Fusion D minor, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
The da-na-na, da-na-na, that definitely I am in a horror game, you know, I'm in a horror scenario kind of thing. That I always do that to make sure my players know we are getting ready to go into a horror-filled adventure. Be on your toes.
I definitely have a Dread and 10 Candles playlist that I created from all the different horror and suspenseful themed, and the D minor, like that's a proven known fact that people don't, their bodies react mentally, like if brain scans and also physically when that is played, it doesn't feel good. Yeah. It's a discord, for more than one reason. So you're talking about the way you talk. You're talking about getting player buy-in. That's so big to anything. Yeah. What I will do for anybody who's listening, the listener, I'm going to give you my sort of my safety tool survey. I'm going to put that as a link for anybody that can copy that as a. It's just a way to get a survey of what do people feel comfortable with. Because there are certain topics that you don't want to breach on with certain people, not because they can't handle it. They just may not want to handle it because it touches on trauma as opposed to fear, which can be fun. Like if you're going to a haunted house, but if you're going to a haunted house with something that invokes a traumatic experience from real life that they're not ready to talk about, especially among friends when they're supposed to be having fun, that could be not good. Give me an example. You were talking about slamming down on the table where everybody's like, ah, and you smell urine. Like, could you share a favorite scary moment or unexpected twist from one of your games? It could be from, you know, the haunt. It could be from anything. Like, tell me the story. Okay.
So, minor spoiler. In the haunt, you have this entryway and you've got a little gallery right beyond it where there's some kind of like portcullis over the stairs that go up, but you see stairs that can go down, and you have a big room like a ballroom, not a ballroom, like a big dining room type area or some kind of like tea area that's got this massive chandelier, and it's very obvious. You see the chandelier, everybody's walking around it, everybody goes in the room, everybody is like going like this around where the chandelier is. Everybody says that chandelier is going to fall, but it doesn't. The whole time in the room, it doesn't. Nothing happens. The moment they leave that room, I have my volume cranked on a chandelier falling and crashing glass. And so there's the slam, there's the thing, there's all the sound effects, but that one scared the bejeebus out of my players. I had two of them going, dude, what just happened? I said, the chandelier broke and it just crashed on the floor there. And immediately that villain that I was telling you about that has all the interesting sound effects, one of these sound effects for that villain that it kind of announces their arrival, I play that and they're like, oh no, not right now. We're not ready for that right now. And that was hilariously unique, especially considering that there's a mechanical pull lever at some point that you separate the party. To advance further, the party has to split.
Okay.
You know that saying, never split the party? There's even a song about it. You have to split the party to advance further.
Don't you know you never split the party? Clerics in the back keep those fighters hale and hearty.
That happens in all horror movies, right? Like the splitting, the aloneness, there is no help coming, like that kind of splitting of the part. Yeah, that adds to the intensity.
Yeah.
What do you use for sound effects? What's your main jam when it comes to using music? Like, what are the tools you like to use, whether you're in person or online?
I am thrifty and in that manner, and I go straight to YouTube. Find you can find all sorts of different sound effects and things on YouTube. I will tell you, the Jurassic Park T-Rex roar has been my big monster roar for ages. I have certain playlists of music. I also run, of all the other campaigns I run Tales from the Loop, which is kids in the weird 80s. So I have an 80s theme track, playlist that I use. So yeah, YouTube is a really big one for me, but I might find some other thing that I find or a sound I've heard that I'll be able to recreate, and I'll record and use that for later. But yeah.
For some people, if anybody uses Foundry VTT, a lot of times if you buy certain adventures, it comes with built-in sounds and built-in soundtracks. So that's like the people who are willing to pay so that they don't have to do it themselves. One way to do it. People like Anthony and I, who are a little bit more thrifty, you can start building those playlists now, so that by the time you're 80 years old, you have the full sound effect library.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, here, so blending. You were talking about blending the one shot, the horror, the long running campaign. You already answered how you make it so that the quest doesn't go sideways. You make it that it's all for fun and not for keeps. Which is really helpful. What is your approach in transitioning back to the normal campaign? And you have this disruptor. The next session, how do you start it? How do you be like, and now we're back to our normal programming, like
normal scheduling.
How do you do that? Yeah.
It starts out with, for me, doing a debrief and check-in after the actual adventure.
Okay.
It starts out with that. Like you would call it aftercare, right? You want to make sure everybody's good. Are we all good? Cool. Great. Awesome. Want to make sure everybody's doing all right. Make sure everybody's had fun. And that is when I say, okay, so this is how we're going to fit it into the campaign where it happens. Usually it's like during travel, like they were going from point A to point B and they'll run into the mansion on the hill or, what have you. Or with the Krampus one, they wake up, in clothes, and they're not sure what's going on or where they are. A lot of my favorite one shots go that way. For our more, mature listeners, there is a really good horror one called the Madhouse of Tasha's Kiss. Yes. Definitely more for more mature listeners to run through or play. I don't recommend it for our younger listeners. But also a very good horror one. There's a lot more body horror. If you run something particularly intense, you're like, hey, this one takes place, for example, while the adventurers are on vacation. They're taking a break from adventuring. And you go to this town because there's a festival there and there's supposed to be a festival there and there's nobody in town, that kind of thing. So I fit them in. I figure a way to fit them in what little ways I can.
Beyond October, beyond Halloween, like horror has a place in campaigns, right? Like when do you feel you invoke horror or tenseness or suspense or any of those feelings? Like when do you find yourself using it as a storytelling element?
I like to do it at times where there is definitely, you can, as a DM or GM or keeper, whatever have you, you can feel that the players are uncertain, where the players are starting to feel we're not sure what's going on. And then you can feed into that and let them build it more up in their own minds than you possibly originally have had it planned. And you can make it more suspenseful. You can make it more than you originally even wrote it. That is a definite big thing. Feeding off of your players' own worst fears.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Wow, we don't sound psychotic at all, do we?
No.
So, okay, we're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire. And
Sure.
so we're going to start with a couple of holidays. And not everybody may celebrate these holidays, but they're ones that, at least in the US, like we're familiar with. So, Christmas, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, April Fool's Day, New Year's Eve, Earth Day, which that kind of made me giggle when I thought about that. Like, made me think of Captain Planet, a Captain Planet themed D&D adventure where we're, heart or whatever else we're all doing.
Fire. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say the holiday, and you give me a game campaign. It doesn't have to all be D&D. It can be whatever RPG. We just want to get it out there for the listener. So besides How the Lich Stole Christmas, what do you got for Christmas?
Last Christmas, the one where you're playing the villains. The Christmas
Valentine's Day.
Easily. That one is any date night dungeon adventure. It's a one DM, one player. It's for couples. A lot of fun.
I'm going to throw another one in there. Bluebeard's Bride is another really good one.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of got a romance thing going on. I don't know if it can be one person, one player, but like that came to mind right away. St. Patrick's Day.
The Leprechaun's Plague by Ammon Hansen. I was actually asked to test run one of their other horror games, one of their horror one-shots. And I started looking up everything else that they wrote, and I'm like, some of these are really good.
All right. April Fools.
It's actually a D&D Beyond free. It's not an adventure so much as an extended encounter called April Fools 'S April Fools Gold. April Fool's Gold. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of giving a take on Fool's Gold and April Fools at the same time. Yeah.
New Year's Eve, bringing in the new year. How do you do it?
That one's a toughie. I honestly don't know. I don't know that I've run a New Year's scenario yet. Now you have me thinking I got to go find one.
Well, if you were to create one, let's pivot. What kind of scenario in a campaign would you put your players in if it was Dungeons and Dragons, where there was the start of a new year? And what kind of hook do you think you would pull people into? And it's okay if you need to pause for a moment.
Oh no. I've been DMing too long to be able to not have stuff like this on the tip of my tongue.
Go on the spot.
There's a ritual happening to bring in the new year where you stop the new year from happening. And like not just end of the world, but you just stop time. And in order for this to be stopped, the heroes actually have to go and stop this ritual from being performed, so that the BBEG, for whatever reason, is wanting to stop time and keep time from advancing.
I've never more badly wanted to play a campaign than what you just said right now. And I've never more badly wanted to be a cleric of the opposing evil god that is trying to stop time. Like, how much fun would that be?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so last one, Earth Day. If there's not a Captain Planet version.
I am going to bring it back to some stuff I wrote myself, which was an adventure based on, we talked about the ecological horrors, that thing that we talked about a few episodes ago, where it starts with an angry treant, and some other woodland creatures who are like, we have to survive, but the winter laden villagers are like, we have to survive. And so that conflict between the two and how you navigate that.
Yeah. And anybody who's new to fantasy, role-playing games, if they've seen Lord of the Rings, like that's a natural buy-in, right? If you've seen any of the movies, you know about treants, you know about ents. You know that they don't like their trees being cut down or destroyed or nature being touched. Awesome. Is there any other games that you feel play into holidays, play into one-shots, play into something that you can do with your friends to break up the pace of a normal campaign or just have a lot of really good fun?
I have not gotten a chance to play it, but I've heard so many things about it. I feel like I have. Called The House on the Haunted Hill, I think is what it's called.
Is that a board game?
It's a board game that has really good elements of horror and that sense. That is everything I've heard about is absolutely fascinating. And I've got some friends who are actually running it for me for my birthday.
Okay.
Which for those who are listening, will have been last month. I'm going to be able to play it for the first time coming up this week. So I'm excited.
I think I almost ran that for my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and then I realized they are not the audience for a game like that.
Yeah.
So maybe one day I'll get to play it too. Anthony, is there anything else that you feel like it would be a shame if we didn't talk about it?
Running holiday one-shots of any kind is always worth it. It is always worth it. It's that time to take whatever holiday you're celebrating, and, put that bit of your favorite hobby into it, be able to explore it with your favorite hobby. And I think that's super important for people that they should do. And when it comes to horror specifically, scare your players.
Scare with their buy-in.
With their buy-in, yes, absolutely. But don't be afraid to scare your players.
Now, Anthony, if people haven't heard you before, which you can go back and listen to the episode where Anthony's talking about the nature and how nature can play into games. We also talked about running games that are not professionally led games. What were we talking about?
Organized play.
Organized play. We were talking about organized play with the Adventurers League. We were also talking about a Pathfinder Society, or any way that you could start in a school or any organization where you were organizing it together. You are able to be connected with. How do people connect with you?
I'm reachable on my website, thedailydungeonmaster.com, Blue Sky. Let's see. I'm also on TikTok, although I will be honest, the Mrs. Daily Dungeon Master is my face of my TikTok. Those are pretty much my biggest platforms that I am on. And of course, you can always email me at thedailydmblog@gmail.com.
Very good. And Anthony, you were so kind to give a discount to any listener of the CTG. It's Claim to Game. That is our promo code that you can go to the Daily DM store, and 15% anything in the store if anybody wants to make some purchases. So Anthony, as always, I ask every person, and I've asked you 2 times now because this is part 3 of your attendance here on the CTG, 10-word phrase so that our listener can remember. What do they need to know about any game that they're running for a holiday? What do they need to know about any game that they're running beyond just horror? What do they need to take with them today? 10 words.
Holidays are just as good for gaming as any other.
Yes. Do not take a hiatus from gaming just because a holiday's around. Bring your friends, bring your family. Yeah. Bring your next door neighbor, whoever they are.
Absolutely.
Very good. Well, thanks again for joining, Anthony. We always appreciate it. And I will be looking forward to part 4 because it is imminent.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Clint. I appreciate being on.
Don't forget to check out Anthony's other 2 episodes, episode 44, where he talks about natural threats and environments and gameplay, as well as episode 45, where he talks all about organized play. He was also super generous and gave you a 15% off promo code to anything in his online store. You're going to find that promo code in the show notes, as well as a link to the Daily DM blog. Please hit like or subscribe if you enjoyed what you heard today. If you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give us 5 stars for the CTG and a review.
Review it.
And may you keep having fun as you have a great time with friends and experience amazing stories through tabletop role-playing.